Welcome to Stagecraft Theatre's production of Persuasion. Thank you for your patience while we sorted out some last-minute seating. I know there's a bit of a football game going on this afternoon, so town is a bit manic. Please do take a moment now to ensure that your mobile devices are switched off or at the very minimum to silent. And please, I don't care how much it vibrates, pings, does whatever during the course, just sit on it. Go completely Jane Austen world and disconnect yourself from the internet for at least a couple of hours. And don't check those messages. It's very disconcerting if a screen suddenly flares up both for the cast and for your fellow patrons. And whilst I'm on that, please note that taking of any sort of photography, video or audio recording is strictly prohibited. In the event of any sort of an emergency, our main exit is through the door we came in and out onto Gusley Street. If the foyer is a blazing inferno, then turn right and follow that exit sign and the stage crew will direct you out onto Egmont Street. If Egmont Street is also a blazing inferno, then I'm not entirely sure. In the event of an earthquake, and we are in Wellington, I would normally say drop, cover, hold, but that's a bit difficult in these seats. But you'll Air New Zealand brace position, knees on the elbows, until we can work out whether we need to evacuate or whether we can just then carry on as we were. We all know what the score is with those. Great, thank you very much indeed. Sit back, enjoy the first half, and I will see you at the interval. Thank you very much indeed.
It is the summer of 1814. I am 27 years old and the years of my life are ticking away. Once I was loved, cherished, heard. Now I am no one with either father or sister. I am only Anne. Sir Walter Elliot, my father. A man who, for his own amusement, never takes up any book other than the Baronetage. There he can read his own history with an interest which never fails.
Elliot of Kellynch Hall, Sir Walter Elliot, born 1760, married 1784 to Elizabeth, daughter of Jane Stevenson, Esquire, of the county of Gloucester, by which he has issue
Elizabeth, Anne, Mary.
Principal seat, Kellynch Hall in the county of Somerset.
Heir presumptive, William Walter Elliot, Esquire, a distant cousin, currently estranged from the Elliot family.
Vanity is the beginning and end of my father's character. Vanity of person and vanity of situation.
The gift of beauty is inferior only to the gift of a baronetcy. How divine it is to unite both in my person. Darling, this coat is sadly worn. I require another. When are we next going to London?
Method, moderation, and economy, my dear husband. Your coat is very well, I assure you. Let us keep within our income.
Very well, my dear. I'm sure you know best.
My mother's closest friend, Lady Russell, was our neighbour and my godmother.
Oh, my dear friend. In my illness, I must rely on you for the maintenance of the good principles and instruction that I have been anxious to give my girls.
Of course, my dearest Elizabeth. Have no fear. I will care for them and guide them as if they were my own.
Especially Anne. She has such sweetness of character, and Sir Walter does not value her as he ought.
And so my mother died. I was 13. Lady Russell.
I love all three girls, but it is only in Anne that I can fancy their mother to revive again.
As much as I love and value her, it is not the same as having a mother. At 22, Charles Musgrove, son and heir of Charles Musgrove, Esquire, of Uppercross in the county of Somerset, proposed to me. But I could not be persuaded, and he soon found a more willing mind in my younger sister. After Mary's marriage, I found myself being left increasingly alone at Kellynch.
Mary has acquired a little artificial importance through her marriage, but Anne is only Anne. Anne's bloom vanished early. I have no hope of ever reading her name in any other page of my favourite book.
At 54, my father is still a very fine man. He believes himself and Elizabeth to be as blooming as ever, amidst the wreck of the good looks of everybody else.
Anne is haggard, Mary coarse. An increase in crow's feet around Lady Russell's temples has long been a distress to me. All quality of alliance must rest with Elizabeth.
Since our mother's death, Elizabeth has been mistress of Kellynch Hall. She feels her approach to the years of danger.
I would rejoice to be certain of being properly solicited by baronet blood within the next 12 months.
Still quite as radiant as ever, Elizabeth, my dear.
That book of books presents Elizabeth always with a date of birth and no marriage following it. Moreover, it represents the remembrance of a disappointment 10 years earlier.
London. I so enjoy a visit for the season.
Elizabeth, my dear, there is somebody I want you to meet. Your cousin and my heir, Mr. William Elliot.
Pleasure to meet you, sir.
Well,
There is not a baronet from A to Z that I could so willingly acknowledge as an equal.
Elizabeth wrote to me from London that they had met with Mr. Elliot.
I mean to marry him, Anne. He is extremely agreeable. And my father's heir besides. I intend to be Lady Elliot. A very proper match for Sir Walter Elliot's eldest daughter.
I have written to your cousin Anne and expect him at Kellynch any time this winter.
Why does he not come? He promised he would visit Kellynch.
I have written twice, Elizabeth. I cannot understand why he does not come. This is an affront to me as the head of the family. I am most displeased by this lack of attention.
Married! Mr. Elliot is married!
To a nobody, Elizabeth. A wealthy nobody of very feeling birth.
Married!
But there is far worse, Elizabeth. Mr. Elliot has been heard speaking most disrespectfully of us and the very Elliot blood to which he belongs. This cannot be pardoned.
He has conducted himself miserably. I would wear black ribbons for his wife, but I do not consider him worthy of thinking of again.
But Elizabeth's disappointment was overshadowed by another worry.
Elizabeth, the bills of our tradespeople are most unreasonable. Can we retrench?
You're not serious.
Indeed. Does it occur to you there is any one article in which we can retrench?
Well, we could refrain from new furnishing the drawing room, and we can take no present down to Anne this year.
I fear that will not be sufficient.
Well, I can think of nothing else without sacrificing our dignity.
I will consult Mr. Shepherd.
Mr. Shepherd is my father's agent, a civil, cautious lawyer. He is always accompanied by his widowed daughter, Mrs. Clay, when he visits. Elizabeth receives her very graciously.
My dear Sir Walter, I have consulted the excellent judgment of Lady Russell.
Sir Walter, with Anne's assistance, I have drawn up some plans of economy that I believe may assist you.
Method, moderation, and economy.
What? Every comfort of life cut off? horses, London, servants, table, restrictions everywhere. To live without even the decencies of a private gentleman. I would sooner quit Kellynch Hall at once than remain on such disgraceful terms.
My dear Lady Russell, it does not appear to me that Sir Walter can materially alter his style of living.
I will quit Kellynch Hall. I will retire to London.
My dearest Lady Russell, I cannot think that Sir Walter is to be trusted in London. My dear Sir Walter, consider that perhaps a small house in our own neighbourhood would be most desirable.
Too mortifying.
Well, what think you to Bath? I am certain it must suit all of you.
Oh, no, not Bath.
I dislike Bath.
Be quiet, Anne.
Bath! An excellent suggestion. Sir Walter might be important in Bath at comparatively little expense.
Bath. An excellent suggestion. What think you, Elizabeth?
I believe that we should lose neither consequence nor enjoyment by settling a bath.
And my dear, I'm glad to know that your father and Elizabeth are moving to Bath, for I cannot like her friendship with Mrs. Clay. Now, Mr. Shepherd is an excellent man, but his daughter is a dangerous companion for your sister.
I must admit, I am surprised by their friendship.
A removal to Bath will leave Mrs. Clay behind and allow Elizabeth the choice of a more suitable companion.
I have had an application to rent Kellynch Hall from an Admiral Croft.
And who is this Admiral Croft?
He was in the Trafalgar action and has been in the East Indies ever since.
Has he? Then I take for granted that his face is about as orange as the capes and cuffs of my livery.
The Admiral is a little weather-beaten, to be sure, but he is quite a gentleman, a most desirable lieutenant, and Mrs. Croft is a very well-spoken, genteel lady. She is sister to the gentleman that lived amongst us a few years back. Bless me, what was his name?
Oh, you mean Mr. Wentworth, I suppose?
Wentworth was the very name. He had the curacy of Monkford. Do you remember, Sir Walter?
Oh, yes, Wentworth. You misled me with the term gentleman. I have let my house to Admiral Croft. Yes, it sounds very well, far better than a mere Mr. You are empowered to act, Mr. Shepherd. The Admiral is quite the best-looking sailor I have ever met with. If it was not for his hair, I would not be ashamed to be seen with him anywhere.
The Baronet will never set the Thames on fire, but there seems to be no harm in him.
A few months more and he may be walking here at Kellynch.
He is not Mr. Edward Wentworth, the former curate of Monkford, but Captain Frederick Wentworth, his brother.
My dear Admiral, I have a letter from Frederick. He's returned to England and desirous of a home. And only think, he intends to look for a wife at last.
You will agree, my dear Sophia, that it is time that I married. I am quite ready to make a foolish match. A little beauty, a few smiles, a few compliments to the navy, and I am a lost man. Should this not be enough for a sailor?
Your brother talks a good deal of nonsense, my dear. But let him come to Kellynch, and it will be his home until he finds his bride.
I cannot think him to be entirely serious, but I had given up hope of him finding a woman who's his equal in temperament and understanding.
The woman I want must have a strong mind, sweetness of manner. I thought I had found her 8 years ago, but it was not so.
He was a remarkably fine young man with intelligence, spirit, and brilliancy.
She was an extremely pretty girl, gentleness, modesty, taste, and feeling.
I had nobody to love, and I saw such perfection in him that I loved him immediately.
Oh, how I love to see the swallows near my window hovering, every year with joyful tidings of the advent of the spring, saying the nests and saying their stories, saying the lovers gather.
close to me.
Oh, Anne, no. Forgive me, Lieutenant Wentworth, but you have nothing, and nothing but yourself to recommend you. You have no connections and no hope of gaining a fortune, but through a most dangerous and uncertain profession.
Ma'am, I'm confident that I will soon have a ship and receive promotion.
The Navy, you know, provides every opportunity for a man to make his way in the world.
I cannot approve of the Navy. It is a means for those of obscure birth to rise to undue precedence.
My dear Anne, to throw yourself away like this at 19.
He is of no name, no consequence, no connection. I will do nothing for you, Anne, if you marry him. It is a most degrading alliance.
A most unfortunate one. I deprecate it in every light.
But he is brilliant.
He is headstrong, Anne. And I fear imprudent. He has been lucky so far, yes. But he has spent all that he has earned, saving nothing for the keeping of a wife. You will be sunk by this marriage into a state of most wearing, anxious, youth-killing dependence. It must not be.
I have been lucky in my profession. I know my luck will continue. I will be rich. Rich enough to give you everything, Anne.
This engagement is the wrong thing for you, Anne. Indiscreet, improper, and hardly capable of success.
Lady Russell and your father think only of consequence at birth. I never thought that would persuade you, Anne.
You have a duty to your family, Anne.
Anne, Lady Russell is wrong. Your father is unjust.
And in your engagement is prudent, Anne. It is for Lieutenant Wentworth's own good that it cannot continue. That must be your consolation.
Such opposition was more than I could combat.
I have always loved and relied on Lady Russell. She cannot be advising me wrongly about the duty that I have to my family.
You're not the woman I thought you, Anne. Farewell.
A few months had seen the beginning and end of our acquaintance, but my regrets clouded every enjoyment for a long time.
I do not blame Lady Russell. I do not blame myself for having been guided by her. But I think differently now from what I was made to think at 19.
And no one has ever compared to Frederick Wentworth as he stands in my memory.
The knowledge that his sister is to live here at Kellynch brings back all the pain of that broken engagement.
Yes! Oh, I'm so ill, and I need Anne's company. I shall not have a day's health all autumn if Anne isn't with me. She must come to stay with me at Uppercross. I simply cannot do without Anne.
Well, then I am sure Anne had better stay with Mary, for nobody will want her in Bath.
Elizabeth is inviting Mrs. Clay to accompany her in Bath.
And I am uneasy about her friendship with Elizabeth. Forgive me, but I cannot fear her influence. And it is a sore aggravation to me that she is preferred by Elizabeth over you. I fear.
Lady Russell, I don't believe my father has any idea of the kind.
But Lady Russell's words made me watch Mrs. Clay more closely, and knowing more about my father's character than I would like, I saw in her an acute mind and assiduous, pleasing manners, which I knew to be dangerous attractions. Speaking to Elizabeth, however, only offended her.
What an absurd suspicion, Anne. Mrs. Clay never forgets who she is. If she were a very beautiful woman, it might be wrong to have her so much with me, but she's not even tolerably pretty. One would imagine you'd never heard my father speak of her freckles. Freckles disgust him. Surely you must have heard him mention Mrs. Clay's freckles.
Elizabeth, my dear, the horses are ready. Bath awaits.
Goodbye, Anne.
Uppercross Cottage, Mary's home. It is a pretty house with French windows and a veranda, but I'm sure I will find Mary lying on the sofa. That's usually where she is when I come to stay.
for yourself on Thursday?
Oh, yes, well, I made the best of it. I always do. But I do not think I've ever been so ill in my life as I have been all this morning.
Well, you will soon be better now. You know I always cure you when I come to stay.
I suppose that is true. But you have not asked me one word about our dinner at the Pools yesterday.
Did you go then? I concluded that you must have been obliged to give up the party.
Oh, yes, I went. I was very well yesterday. Nothing at all the matter with me until this morning. Shall we go for a little walk?
Anne, how are you? Mary has been so impatient for your arrival.
Well, thank you, Charles. Mary and I were just about to set off for a little walk.
But I suppose you should not like to call upon the great house before they have been to call upon you.
I should never stand on ceremony with people I know so well as the Musgroves.
My mother and sisters will be delighted to see you.
So to the great house we accordingly go. The Musgroves have 2 grown-up daughters, young ladies of 19 and 20, who are living to be fashionable, happy, and merry.
Miss Anne, welcome back to Uppercross.
Dear Mrs. Musgrove, it is delightful to see you. Henrietta and Louisa are pretty girls with extremely high spirits and pleasant manners. They are the happiest creatures of my acquaintance.
Oh, Anne! Oh, it is delightful to see you. Will you play the piano tonight so we can dance?
Yes, of course, Louisa. I know I play a good deal better than either of the Miss Musgroves, but my performance is little thought of, other than a kindness to allow others to dance.
Oh, we are wild for dancing.
Anne, what kind of bath do you think Sir Walter and your sister will settle in?
Oh, Henrietta and I hope we shall be in Bath for the winter.
But we must take a house in a good situation, Mamma. Near the assembly room.
Well, I shall be pretty well off when you're all gone away to be happy at Bath.
One of the least agreeable circumstances of staying at Uppercross is being treated with too much confidence.
Oh, dear, the children! I'm always so happy to see you, Miss Anne. I do hope that Mary is feeling well enough for you to take them home. I've only been able to keep them to order by more cake that is good for them.
The children are looking so well, Charles.
They go on, Captain. I would be able to manage them very well if it were not for Mary's interference.
And Charles spoils the children so that I cannot get them into any order.
Anne, I do wish you could persuade Mary to stop always fancying herself ill.
Oh, Anne, I do believe that if Charles were to see me dying, he would not think anything was the matter with me. I really am very ill, a great deal more than I ever admit.
Oh, Anne, it is a pity that Mary doesn't have a little bit more of your method with those children. I don't suppose you would put her in order of managing them?
Anne, I hate sending the children to their grandmother's house. She fills them with so much cake and sweet things that they are sure to come back sick and cross for the rest of the day.
They are so spoiled. I'm obliged to check you with every moment. Don't do this. Don't do that!
Anne, I wish you could give Mary a hint that it would be a great deal better. She's not so very tenacious about her place. I mean, nobody doubts her right to have precedence over Mamma, but it would be more becoming of her if she's not always so insisting on it. Oh.
Anne, I am most vexed that Charles's mother does not give me the precedence I am due when we dine at the great house.
How am I to set all these matters to rights? And so passes the first 3 weeks. The cross took possession of Kellynch with true naval alertness.
I say, is this not the day the cross were due to take possession of Kellynch? Nobody could understand how much it pains me to see my family home occupied by strangers. I do hope they come to visit us.
And come they do. Will I see a likeness to him? If not in her face, then perhaps her voice or expression.
Ah, Admiral and Mrs. Croft, how delightful.
Mrs. Musgrove.
Do come in.
It was you and not your sister, I find, that my brother had the pleasure of being acquainted with when he was last in this country.
Your brother? I'm not sure.
I hope I have outlived the age of blushing. But the age of emotions I certainly have not.
Perhaps you've not heard that he is married. Such a charming girl. We are delighted to see Edward so well settled.
Oh, yes.
Edward, not Frederick. Frederick is not married.
Are you settled now at Kellynch, Mrs. Croft?
We are. Thank you, Miss Elliot. It is a delightful house, and we are very happy there. And we must be running away now. I've still got the unpacking of the Admiral's trunks to oversee. Admiral, are you ready?
Of course, my dear. Oh, we are expecting a brother of Mrs. Croft's here soon. I dare say you know him, by name at least.
Surely he means Edward. Surely he cannot mean Frederick.
Goodbye, Admiral, Mrs. Croft.
I cannot see him. I cannot.
Mrs. Croft's brother, Captain Wentworth, has just returned to England and has come to stay with them at Kellynch.
Wentworth, he is here. He is at Kellynch.
Oh yes, and we are perfectly delighted with him. He is so much handsomer than anyone we have ever seen.
And so agreeable. He's even accepted Mamma's invitation for dinner tonight.
I cannot see him. I cannot.
But she does not expect you and Mary to come, for you would not like to leave little Charles.
No. Oh, no, we cannot leave him.
No, we would not leave our poor sick child for the world.
And we must dress for dinner.
Mary, I do so much wish to meet Captain Wentworth. I will not dine with him, but I will join with them for half an hour after dinner.
No, Charles, I do not want you to go. Only think if something should happen.
Mary, what is there for a father to do in this case? Anne will send for me if anything is the matter.
This is always my luck. Charles is to go and enjoy himself, and I have to stay here.
Mary, nursing does not belong to a man. A sick child is always the mother's property.
Well, I hope I am as fond of my children as any mother, but I do not know if I'm of any more use in the sick bay than Charles. I have not the nerves for that sort of thing. You saw how hysterical I was.
Well, suppose you were to go and leave little Charles to my care.
Now that is a very good thought. A very good thought indeed. Yes, you can stay and attend to little Charles, and I can meet Captain Wentworth. Brilliant! Charles, I have decided to come with you. Anne undertakes to stay here and look after our son. It is Anne's own proposal.
That is very kind of Anne. We are most grateful. And we must go, Mary, or we will be late.
I wonder if he knows that I'm here.
How does he feel about it being between us? Perhaps indifferent?
Could I bear that?
Either indifferent or unwilling.
No. Had he wished to see me,
He need not have waited until now.
and I am of the first utility to little Charles.
What is it to me if Captain Wentworth is but half a mile distant, making himself agreeable to others?
Oh, Anne, I am so pleased with Captain Wentworth, and he is coming here this morning to shoot with Charles.
Here? He is coming here?
Mary, we are just setting off. Captain Wentworth is following with my sisters.
Oh, here, now! 1,000 feelings, I don't know what to feel.
How is your little boy this morning? I hope he is recovering.
Charles is going on capitally. Anne is nursing him. She is a capital nurse.
I am hearing his voice again. The room feels so full of persons and voices. Please let it be over.
Go along then, Wentworth. Those birds won't shoot themselves.
Goodbye, Mrs. Musgrove.
I will come with you.
Miss Elliot.
Oh, Captain Wentworth, tell me.
It is over. The worst is over. We have once more been in the same room. After almost 8 years. It is absurd to resume the agitation that 8 years' interval had banished. And yet, 8 years feels little more than nothing.
Oh, Anne, Captain Wentworth was so attentive to me. Henrietta asked him what he thought of you, and he said you were so changed he should not have known you.
Often beyond his knowledge. And yet I saw the same Frederick Wentworth.
However, it is not very surprising that he should not know you. You used to be quite pretty, but now the years have destroyed your youth and bloom.
So altered that he could not have known me again. Such words.
But I must rejoice that I have heard them. They are sobering. They allay agitation.
Cannot forgive me for disappointing him, for giving him up to oblige brothers, for allowing myself to be over-persuaded.
The Navy list. Oh, do let's look for your ships, Captain Wentworth.
Your first was the S. I remember. We will look for the S.
You will not find her there. Quite worn out and broken up. I was the last man who commanded her.
Never was a better sloop than the Aspinode, eh? Lucky fellow to get her. He knows that there must have been 20 better men than himself applying for her at the same time.
I felt my luck, Admiral, I assure you. It was a great object with me in the year 6 to be at sea. A very great object. I wanted to be doing something.
Year 6, after our engagement was broken.
To be sure you did. What should a young man like you do for ashore for half a year together? A man had not a wife, he still wants to be afloat again.
Oh, and now the Laconia.
Ah, those were pleasant days when I had the Laconia. How fast I made money in her.
That was when you were so kind to my dear son.
The Musgroves had the ill fortune of a very troublesome son. He was sent away to sea because he was so unmanageable on shore.
Mama is thinking of poor Richard. He died 2 years ago, but he served with you on the Laconia.
Oh, come and sit by me, Captain Wentworth.
Does he know that we are actually on the same sofa?
If you had been a week later at Lisbon last spring, Frederick, you would have been asked to give a passage to a Lady Mary Grayson and her daughters.
Should I? I'm glad I was not a week later then. No ship under my command shall ever convey a family of ladies anywhere. It is impossible to make the accommodations on board such as women ought to have.
Oh, Frederick, I cannot believe it of you. I believe I have lived on board as much as most women, and I know nothing superior to the accommodations of a man of war.
You were travelling with your husband, and were the only woman on board.
But you yourself brought Mrs. Harville and her family round from Portsmouth to Plymouth.
I would bring anything of Harville's from the world's end if he wanted it. But do not imagine that I do not feel it an evil in itself.
But I hate to hear you talking so, like a fine gentleman. And as if women were all fine ladies instead of rational creatures. None of us expect to be in smooth water all our days.
Now, my dear, when he has a wife, he will sing a very different tune. When he is married, we shall have him very thankful for anyone who will bring him his wife.
Aye, that we shall.
What a great traveller you must have been, ma'am.
In the 15 years of my marriage, I have crossed the Atlantic 4 times, then once to the East Indies and back again, besides being in different places about home, Cork and Lisbon and Gibraltar.
Gracious!
Poor Mrs. Musgrove. She can't have heard of half of those places.
Dancing! We must have some dancing!
Would you like me to play for you, Louisa?
Oh, yes, please.
I'll fetch the music.
I beg your pardon, madam.
This cold and ceremonious grace are worse than any
Does Miss Elliot never dance?
Oh no, never. She is quite good enough dancing. She'd rather play. She's never tired of playing.
Henrietta and Louisa are entirely occupied with him. Which of them does he prefer? Henrietta is perhaps the prettiest, and Louisa has the highest spirits. Once I might have known whether the more gentle or lively character was likely to attract him, but now I do not.
Mary, Jane's hater has returned. I am glad, for in all this excitement of Captain Wentworth's arrival, I do believe Henrietta has very much forgotten James.
Well, I cannot think him at all a fit match for Henrietta. He is only a curate.
We're talking nonsense, Mary. Henrietta might do far worse than Mary James. And if she can have him, and Louisa can get Captain Wentworth, I shall be very well satisfied. James! James, my dear fellow, how are you?
Very well, I thank you, cousin. And I have news from Dr. Shirley. He's to give me the curacy of Uppercross.
Ah, that is capital news. You and Henrietta can be married sooner than you had hoped.
I had thought it the object nearest Henrietta's heart, but she's too taken up with this Captain Wentworth to have any time for me. He's put me quite out of Henrietta's head.
Nonsense, James. She will be delighted with your news.
We must take our leave now. What a delightful evening.
Let us have no more of such evenings.
I thought the Miss Musgroves had been here.
They were upstairs with my sister. They'll be down in a moment, I dare say.
He does not like finding me alone.
How do you do, Mr. Hayter? Will you not sit down? The others will be here shortly.
Oh, Walter! Walter, stop it! You are extremely troublesome! Get down this instant!
Darling! Darling, your head to me.
Walter!
Walter! Why do you not do as you are bid? Do you not hear your aunt speak? Come to me, Walter. Come to Cousin James. You ought to have minded me, Walter. I told you not to tease your aunt like that. Come here. Come, Walter. Come, Walter. Come.
Little rascal. What has he been up to?
He came to my aid. He extended his kindness to me. But he will not take my thanks or even look at me.
I must take my leave. I'm engaged to walk with the Miss Musgroves.
I came to tell you that I shall return to Uppercross only when Captain Wentworth has departed. Perhaps then Henrietta will remember me.
James! James, my dear fellow!
The autumn progresses. It is November.
Oh, good morning, Mary. Good morning, Anne. We shall not stop. It is a fine day, and we are going for a very long walk.
But we know you could not like to go with us, Mary, for you do not like walking.
No.
I am very fond of a long walk. I do not know why you should suppose that I do not like walking. Everyone is always supposing that I am not a good walker.
Will you join us, Anne?
Yes, of course.
Hooray! Oh, Captain Wentworth!
We are taking a country walk today.
A country walk? Capital, we will join you.
It is painful being in his company. But at least I can enjoy the exercise and the autumn views.
A style! Oh, jump me down, Captain Wentworth.
What glorious weather for the Admiral and my sister. They meant to take a long drive this morning. I wonder whereabouts there were upsets today. It does happen very often, but my sister makes nothing of it.
I should do just the same in her place. If I loved a man, she loves the Admiral, I should always be with him. Nothing would ever separate us, and I'd rather be overturned by him than driven safely by anybody else.
How do you? I honour you.
Bless me, here is Winthrop. I declare, I had no idea. Well, I suppose we
cousin Jane's now that we are so near.
No, indeed, Charles, I do not want to call on your aunt.
Louisa, we should go home. No, indeed. You said you would go and visit James. You cannot turn back now.
Mary, you must not be so unreasonable.
Charles, I will not walk down to Winthrop only to walk back up that hill again.
But Mary does not wish to go, and I cannot inconvenience her. Nonsense. Do not listen to Mary. Henrietta wishes to see my aunt.
Henrietta and I will go then. The rest of you will stay and wait here.
Captain Woodward, let us see if there are any hazelnuts in the hedgerow.
Well, I do not think him at all a fit match for Henrietta. It would be a shocking thing for her to marry him. Shocking indeed. Only think how dreadful for me to have such a family connection. But Charles will encourage her. Try as I might, I could not prevent her from calling on Winthrop today. Where has Louisa gone? I am sure she's found a much better place to sit than that thing.
Oh, Mary. She can even quarrel with her own seat.
And so I persuaded Henrietta that she must go to Winthrop and not listen a moment to Mary. Would I be turned back from doing a thing I'd been determined to do? No. I'm not so easily persuaded. When I've made up my mind, I've made it. Henrietta had entirely made up hers to call at Winthrop today and was near to giving it up out of nonsensical compliance.
Yours is the character of firmness and decision. It is the worst evil of too indecisive a character that no influence over it can be depended on. Let those who would be happy be firm. My first wish for all whom I'm interested in is that they should be firm. If Louisa Musgrove will be beautiful and happy in her November of life, she will cherish all her present powers of mind.
Words spoken with such serious warmth. Even Louisa has no answer to that step.
Mary is good-natured enough, but she does provoke me excessively sometimes by her nonsense and pride. The Elliot pride. She has a great deal too much of the Elliot pride. Oh, we do so wish that Charles had married Anne instead. Oh, I suppose you know that. He wished to marry her.
Do you mean that she refused him?
Oh, yes. Oh, I wish she had accepted him. We should have all liked her a great deal better. Mama always thinks it was her great friend, Lady Russell's doing. She thinks she persuaded Anne to refuse him.
That is most interesting, Miss Louisa.
I see how my character is considered by him. He thinks me weak and yielding. There was that degree of feeling and curiosity in his voice which is most agitating. What can it mean?
Mary? Mary!
Charles!
Here is James. He will walk with us back to Uppercross. Where are Louisa and Wentworth?
I could not find them anywhere.
You look very happy, Henrietta.
We are happy, James.
It was all a misunderstanding, but Henrietta is pleased that I've been offered the curacy. It means that we will be married sooner than I dared to hope.
I'm very glad for you both.
Louisa! Louisa! Wentworth!
Here we are, Charles. We have been looking for hazelnuts in the hedgerow.
So Henrietta will marry Mr. Hayter. Everything now marks out Frederick for Louisa. Nothing could be explained now.
My dear young people, such a fine day for a long walk. Can we offer a seat to any of the ladies who might be particularly tired?
I am tired. So tired.
I'm not tired at all.
Nor I. Miss Elliot, I'm sure you are tired. Do let us have the pleasure of taking you home. There is excellent room for three, I assure you.
You are very kind, Benjamin.
He saw my fatigue and resolved to give me rest. He condemns me for the past, but he cannot see me suffer without offering me relief.
equal part. And I feel both pleasure and pain. Because this is an impulse of friendship.
It certainly means they have one or two of those young girls, Sophie, but there's no saying which. Running after them long enough to make up his mind. How many days was it, my dear, between my first seeing you and us sitting down together at our lodgings at North Yarmouth?
We better not talk about it, my dear. For if Miss Elliot were to hear how quickly we came to an understanding, she would never be persuaded we could be happy together.
I wish Frederick would bring us home one of those young ladies to Kellynch. Very nice young ladies they both are. I hardly know one from the other.
Very good-humoured, unaffected girls indeed. And a very respectable family. My dear Admiral, mind that post!
Their writing style certainly suggests a lot about their marriage style.
They are delightful people.
I have had a letter from Lyme from my dear friend Harville.
Oh, Lyme! I'm wild to see Lyme. And I! Captain Wentworth, could we not all go to Lyme and meet your friend?
Harville and his family have settled at Lyme for the winter on account of his health. He was severely injured, poor fellow, 2 years ago, and he has never been in good health since then. I know Harville would be pleased to meet you.
A delightful expedition. I too long to see Lyme.
Oh, and my former lieutenant, Captain Bennett, is staying with them as well. I'd be glad to have you know him too.
Then it is settled. To Lyme we will go. Myself, Mary, Anne, Captain Wentworth, Henrietta, and Louisa.
Wentworth, my dear fellow.
Harville!
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Lyme. My wife and Captain Bennett. You must dine with us. Friends of Wentworth are indeed friends of our own.
You are all most welcome into our home. Our house is small, but we never have trouble accommodating friends.
To think these might have been all my friends. You have a beautiful home, Mrs. Harville.
Bennett is always quiet. You must not mind him. He was engaged to my sister and is now mourning her death.
I'm so sorry. You must miss her dreadfully.
But he has perhaps not a more sorrowing heart than I have. He will rally again and be happy with another.
What are you reading, Captain Bennett?
Poetry. It helps me realize my grief. Love lies not in our will, nor can I blame thee, though it be my lot, to strongly, wrongly, vainly love thee still.
Do you read only poetry? The prose can rouse and fortify a mind, particularly a mind distressed by grief.
What would you recommend, Miss Anne?
Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow the wind south for the bonny blue sea. Blow the wind southerly, southerly, southerly. Blow bonny breeze, my lover, to me. They told me last night there were ships in the offing, and I hurried down to the deep rolling sea. But my eye could not see it, wherever might be it, the bark that is bearing my lover to me. Oh, blow, bonny breeze, and bring him to me.
It is amusing that I have come to Lyme to preach patience to a man I never saw before. I have been eloquent on a point of which my own conduct does not bear close examination.
Miss Elliot, you've done a good deed in making that poor fellow talk so much. I wish he had such company more often.
It is time we return to our inn.
We will see you tomorrow, Harville.
Oh, for a walk along the cob?
The sea air always does good. Oh, and I've never seen you look so pretty. Oh, you do look so
Good morning, Mum. Mum.
Who was that man, Anne? He certainly admired you.
Who was that? I should like to know.
Please, ma'am, does the party require any coffee?
Oh no, indeed, we are about to walk out.
Could you tell us the name of the gentleman who has just gone away?
Oh, yes, sir. That's a Mr. Elliot. He's a gentleman of large fortune, will be a baronet someday. He's gone on now to Bath in London.
Elliot? Mr. Elliot? It must be our cousin. It must be our Mr. Elliot. In mourning, just as our Mr. Elliot must be. What a pity we should not have been introduced to him. Do you think he had something of the Elliot countenance? I think he had something of the Elliot countenance.
Good morning. Are you ready for your final walkabout line?
Oh, the cob. We must walk on the cob.
There is rather too much wind on the high part of the cob to make it pleasant for ladies. I suggest we move further down.
Jump me down, Captain Wentworth, just as you do on our country walk.
Miss Louisa, the height is too great. Do not jump.
I am determined I will.
Is there no one to help me?
You go to him and I will support Henrietta.
Oh God!
And what is to be done next? What in heaven's name is to be done next?
Good God, what's happened?
Take him to our house. A surgeon can see you there. Lay him down on my bed.
A surgeon. Somebody, quickly, a surgeon.
Yes, a surgeon.
No, would it not be better for Captain Bennett to go? He knows where a surgeon is to be found.
The head has received a severe contusion, but I believe there is every possibility that she will recover.
Oh, thank God. Someone must go to Uppercross immediately and inform her parents.
But she cannot be removed. She must stay here. Bring her parents here to us.
Indeed, we can accommodate them here very well. You need not have the least uneasiness and leave her to my wife's care entirely.
Then Henrietta and Mary must go home.
I will take your wife and your sister home if Anne will stay. No one so proper, so capable as Anne.
He said Anne. He said my name.
You will stay and nurse her.
I am most willing to remain.
He speaks with such gentleness.
No, Charles, this is unjust. Why must I go when Anne is allowed to remain? Why am I not allowed to be as useful as Anne? Anne is nothing to Louisa. And to travel without my husband, it isn't right. No, it is decided. I will stay and Anne will go. Oh, poor Louisa! If only we hadn't taken that fated walk along the coast.
Henrietta.
Don't talk of it. Oh God, that I had not given way to her at the fatal moment. Dear, sweet Louisa.
I wonder if he's questioning his own opinion now. Does it not strike him that a persuadable temper might sometimes be just as much in favour of happiness as a resolute character?
Anne, I heard of the accident to Louisa Musgrove. What happened?
Louisa fell from the cob. She was jumping from it and Captain Wentworth was unable to catch her in time to prevent her from falling badly and hitting her head.
Captain Wentworth?
Yes, he was in line with the Musgroves. I believe there is an attachment between him and Louisa.
To think the man who 8 years ago seemed to know the value of an Anne Elliot is now charmed by Louisa Musgrove. Anne, my dear, how well you look. Your cheeks are blooming. Lyme has certainly agreed with you.
Until Louisa's accident, we were all very happy at Lyme. It is a delightful place.
I must go to Kellynch today to call upon the Crofts. Have you courage to go with me? It will be a trial to us both, seeing your family home in the hands of others.
Miss Elliot, welcome. Now, you must go through all of the rooms if you would like.
No, sir, I am quite content, I assure you.
I've done very little besides sending away some of those large mirrors from your father's dressing room. I should think that he must be a rather dressy man for his time of life. Good Lord, there was no getting away from oneself in all those mirrors.
And when do you leave for Bath, Lady Russell?
Tomorrow, Mrs. Croft. It is time to restore Anne to her father and sister.
You must give your good father our compliments and say that we have settled here quite to our liking.
My father is fortunate in his tenants. Kellynch has passed into better hands than its owners. It is painful to think so.
And so, to Bath I must go.
It will be an imprisonment, but I cannot look back.
Kellynch is no longer my home. It all feels desolate at Uppercross.
It seems to pass here which make it precious. Sensations of pain, once severe but now softened. Breathings of friendship and reconciliation.
And here ends all danger of meeting Captain Wentworth again.
I can leave behind everything except the knowledge that such things have been.
There is no doubt that if, when, Louisa recovers,
He will marry her.